Of all the 130 gods in Smite, there's one that has consistently stood out as having one of the worst kit designs in the game.
Oh yeah, definitely Charybdis. Yeah, you're right, Charybdis. Dude, I mean, I just forget about Charybdis, bro. She's so irrelevant that I just forget about her, bro. She definitely has the worst design.
Charybdis is well known within the Smite community to have one of the worst kit designs. When you Google Charybdis Smite, one of the top 3 results is a Reddit thread titled, "Why is Charybdis so bad?" So today, I will try to explain from an objective standpoint why this god feels so awful to play, and why her kit design is one of the most uninspired ones in Smite. Let's start by going through her abilities just one by one in order. Her passive ability is called Raging Tides. This ability boils down to you getting increased attack speed for hitting basic attacks. This passive is almost identical to Poseidon's passive, except she gets attack speed instead of ability damage in MS, which in my opinion is kind of boring. Like, TitanForge could have given her a unique passive, but chose not to. The worst part about this passive though isn't that it's a carbon copy of another god's, it's how Charybdis consumes Tide and therefore loses attack speed for using her abilities. You physically feel your attack speed changing as you use abilities, which makes her feel clunky. You don't get that effect with Poseidon because the stats that he loses don't cause as much clunk as varying attack speed. Charybdis can lose up to 10% attack speed from using one ability. Hunters are made to use basic attacks as their primary form of damage, so punishing a hunter for using abilities feels pretty antithetical to the entire class's purpose. The last part of her passive is that any basic attack item procs she causes deal 20% less damage, which I'll touch more on when we talk about her first ability. Her first ability is Spike Shot, and it turns her basic attacks from her unique chain of 1-1.4.4.4 to all ones, and the autos shoot out spike fragments off the target or wall hit. That weird default attack chain progression is why she gets that item damage reduction that I noted in her passive, since she can proc basic attack item effects more frequently. However, when she uses her first ability, she loses that attack progression, but keeps the debuff on item damage. So while you are dealing some additional damage with your one's spike shot on the target, you lose the additional damage from your attack chain and your item procs, which can decrease your single target DPS against high HP tanks if you're using a yellow numbers build. Another issue I have with it is that if you upgrade the ability, you clear waves faster with it, and therefore can't stack your passive as much. So you are kind of forced to level this last if you want to get any benefit from using it to stack your passive. That is the second example of anti-synergy in this kit. The one thing this ability is good for, I will say, is that the ability does increase the travel speed of your basic attacks. Moving on to her second ability, Capsize. This is a cone attack that varies in size and effect potency based on how long you channel it. As a hunter, you don't really want to be forced to stop basic attacking to channel your abilities. It's just going to feel bad. But while you can refire the ability to send it quickly, not only is the cone smaller, but the slow and protection shred are basically non-existent at low charge, making it kinda useless to use without charging, except for hitting things over walls or clearing or confirming a camp. When you use this ability, you have to channel for about 1 to 1.5 seconds to get a strong effect. But even then, the effects decay quickly over time, so the value doesn't last very long at all. Having to stop DPS to do this in a teamfight doesn't feel great. I will say that the protection debuff though is good for increasing DPS against jungle bosses. Her third ability is called Whirlpool form. This is definitely her best ability and is one of the best escapes in the game for a few reasons. It makes her untargetable, damage and CC immune, she can use it while crippled, and it has a pretty good knockup. It also basically banishes her from the game, so things like Neath ultimate or Nuwa ultimate cannot hit her. Unfortunately, using the knockup form of this ability costs Tide, so you reduce your attack speed when utilizing the enhanced effects of this ability, similar to Capsize. In addition, this ability can be interrupted pretty easily, unlike other characters that have your typical dashes or leaps. It does do a significant amount of damage if you consume Tide to enhance it though, yet I don't think the movement speed boost is significant enough. However, with how much damage you get from using Tide on this ability along with the knockup, I think it's in a mostly fine place. In her ultimate ability, the Maw Hungers is her most poorly designed ability in my opinion. People will often joke that it's just another movement ability because they don't want to use it in fights. It kinda copy-pastes Scylla ultimate in a different form, which is totally fine from a lore standpoint, but it doesn't tie into her other abilities at all, so it just feels out of place. This ability takes like 2 seconds minimum to fully cast, and you have to stand still to fire it, making it feel clunky. You don't get any mitigations or protections while firing, and its range isn't amazing or anything, so you're often left open to damage. This ability also suffers from the Tiamat Ground Stance 2 problem, where you can miss the ability if they happen to move between the hitboxes at the right time. I will say that if you can hit it, it does do a lot of damage, but you also need to confirm last hits with it to get a ton of value from it. If you do get a kill with it though, you can typically double cast it on the same target to stun and damage them again, which is satisfying, however it's pretty hard to do. The last thing to know about this is that for some reason, it can push knockback immune targets, similar to how Yu Huang ult pushes knockback immune targets, which I guess is nice. So what could they have done differently with her to make her a better designed character? Well, for starters, they could rework her passive to provide something that isn't attack speed, like maybe penetration or basic attack damage, just something that doesn't cause added clunkiness. Maybe they could also rework how she builds Tide so that her 1 doesn't feel as bad to prioritize leveling. Like maybe they could add a multiplier to the Tide that she builds while her 1 is active that scales per level. I also think for her 1, they should make it so that she gets 100% of the damage from her items while it's active, so her items don't get nerfed while she's using an ability. Her 2 could charge faster and cost less Tide so that you can get the value faster. Her 3 could stack Tide as it deals damage to enemies, and her ultimate could mitigate damage from the front and cast faster. They could also make it so when she fires the ultimate for the first time, it doesn't put her in a state where she becomes more mobile, but instead it immediately fires, then if she gets a kill, she can move around. That way, it's casting faster and it's less telegraphed. Now, I'm not saying TitanForge should implement all of these changes, but I'm hoping that they will consider or implement maybe a few of them, either in Season 11 or Smite 2. And obviously, to caveat all of this, she can still be good or fun without any of these changes at all. Like right now, I think she's still the best hunter in the game at killing frontline tanks, and I do have fun playing her from time to time. Thanks so much for watching the video. Let me know what you think about Charybdis and how they can make her a better designed god in the future in the comments, and be sure to leave a like if you enjoyed the video and subscribe.